let's understand how the enemies of the latest Apocalyptic Shadow work. But first, let's understand Cocolia. Why does she do so many attacks? So Cocolia has two stages. First, she has a normal state, and then she has the Super Saiyan state, when you get to that second HP bar. So how do these continuous attacks of Cocolia work? They basically work like this. When Cocolia summons pillars at the start of the battle, they are like this, as you can see. But these pillars mark your allies with this thing right here. So in this example, Firefly and Ranmei have been marked. So for every pillar there is, your allies will have this mark. In the first battle, there are 2 pillars. So that means 2 marks. So Firefly and Ranmei. And in the second battle, Cocolia summons 4 pillars. That means 4 marks. But Cocolia herself also marks someone. So that is why Firefly has 2 marks on her. And then every other ally has a mark because of the pillars. So what do these marks do then? How is this important for these continuous attacks of Cocolia? Well, it works like this. When Cocolia gets a turn, she will do any action. And if that action is a single target attack, then after that single target attack, she will do that same single target attack on every marked ally of yours. So let's go through an example. Let's assume it is Cocolia's turn in this first half of the battle. We can say Cocolia now will do an action, and that action is a single target attack. What kind of single target attacks can she do in this first half of the battle? There are 2 types she can do in this case. That is just a normal single target attack. So she just attacks a single character of yours. That's it. Or she does one with the high chance to freeze, which is the most irritating one, which you might have noticed in your battles. So Cocolia gets a turn. She will just do an action. If that action is a single target attack, so she will do a single target attack against Gallagher, for example. So not to the marked enemies, just a normal thing that she will just do randomly. And that is, in this case, let's assume a normal attack, just a normal single target attack, no strings attached. Then she will do that same normal attack to every marked ally of yours. So with this first action of Cocolia's, she has already done 3 attacks. But as you can see, she has another action left. So now she will do an action again. And in this case, in most cases actually, that is also a single target attack. And now, so against a random ally of yours. So let's assume imaginary MC now. Do a single target attack. And now that single target attack is out of the normal or freeze one. The freeze one, let's say that. So now she does this freeze attack against imaginary MC. And after that, she will now attack every marked allies of yours with the mark. And that is Firefly and Ranmei. So that means she will do that same attack on them now too. So how many attacks has Cocolia in total done to you with her 2 actions she got? That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So she has done 6 attacks against you in these 2 turns of hers. And you got to understand, these are the single target attacks of the first half. But in the second half, her single target attacks are also the freeze one, but she won't have a normal single target attack anymore. She will replace that with a single target attack, which is an imprisonment attack with a high chance to imprison you. And it works exactly the same as in the first half with the wall marking and the extra attacks. But you got to get more lucky since all her single target attacks have a high chance to freeze or imprison you. And you now also have 5 marks in total on you. But the thing is about this extra mark from Cocolia is when she attacks this marked ally, she will remove that mark, which is pretty nice. But all you need to know really is on how to remove these marks from these pillars, which are the most important one, is by actually weakness breaking a pillar. So if you weakness break a pillar, then a mark of yours will get removed. In the game, I don't think it states which pillar has marked which ally, which is quite unfortunate. So if I want to remove a mark from Ranmei, I don't know which pillar to weakness break because it doesn't state which pillar has marked which ally, as far as I saw, and I didn't see it anywhere, unfortunately. So that's the strategy basically. Weakness break your pillars, and then your mark gets removed. And when you have weakness broken them, you can just also immediately kill them since they're quite squishy, so you shouldn't have any problem with that. But the nice thing about pillars is though, all they do is just these AoE attacks, which is quite nice for energy regeneration. And killing these pillars is basically also a must, since if you kill them, then Cocolia will get these weakness types of the pillar. So removing these marks are basically a thing that should automatically happen in most cases. Now you know why Cocolia does so many attacks, but it is recommended to just kill all pillars on the field, since the more weakness types Cocolia has, the more damage she receives. So that helps you in bursting her down when you weakness break Cocolia. But that is the case in the first half of the battle. In the second half of the battle, you can just basically weakness break one pillar and then go all into Cocolia, because when you weakness break Cocolia in the second half, all the pillars get automatically removed from the battle, which is quite nice. So then she will have all 4 weakness types, which is really helpful with the bounce characters like Imaginary, MC, and Aventurin, or even Asta. And another thing with the first half is you don't have to kill Gepard, since if you can manage to raw dog kill Cocolia by ignoring Gepard and his wall shield, then Gepard will just automatically leave the field, and then the only ones left will be Cocolia with her 4 pillars in the second half, which is pretty nice. But before Cocolia summons these 4 pillars, she will have all 4 weakness types. So if you have, for example, Robin's ult and you're on a Fei Xiao team, you can just cast Robin's ult right before Cocolia summons these pillars, which will allow you to do a little bit of toughness reduction. And another thing I want to say about Gepard is, like I said, Gepard casts this irritating shield, this collective shield. So you don't have to specifically attack Gepard to reduce that shield, but it is recommended to attack Gepard because he will be the only one whose toughness you can reduce now when that shield is up. And if you manage to reduce his toughness to 0 when that shield is up, then that shield will go away. If you decide to ignore him and just raw dog the shield to 0, and if that shield gets to 0, then Gepard also will be just weakness broken automatically. So the perfect thing would be actually when Gepard has like a little bit of toughness left and he casts his shield, and you just do one basic attack of, for example, Aventurin on him, he loses his shield, and now you can try to kill Cocolia ASAP. But it really depends on the team you're running. For example, with the Saylet team, you can easily just kill Gepard with 1 ult and 2 skills of hers. But Gepard can also automatically just die by not even focusing him when you're, for example, using a Firefly. Since a Firefly is a destruction unit with blast attacks, so his toughness will get reduced every time you attack Cocolia, or even with Acheron's skill and ult. Now I will give you some guidelines on when to restart the Cocolia battle if you really just can't get enough points to get all the rewards. The first thing is, if you get frozen and you don't have this reactive cleanse, then I'd recommend you to restart. Because if you can't cleanse this frozen ally of yours when the ally gets his turn, then the ally will get his action delayed by quite a lot. And the other time I recommend you to restart is when Cocolia imprisons you. Since even if you cleanse that imprisonment, you have already been pushed down by that imprisonment. That means your action has been delayed by quite a lot already. The other time to restart is when your bounces don't hit the important enemies. And with that I mean like when, for example, Imaginary MC or Asta uses her skill, but all the bounces go onto a pillar who doesn't have that weakness type instead of Cocolia or Gepard. So now your DPS needs to attack that Gepard, for example, because he just shielded, and now you need to waste your DPS, his damage, on Gepard instead of Cocolia. So this is basically just bad bounce RNG luck. Another time to restart is when Cocolia didn't attack ally Y, which didn't manage to just get enough energy to cast her ult for an important moment. So for example, you just got a little bit of energy left for roll May her ult, but Fei Xiao got attacked instead by Gepard or a Cocolia. So now you missed this roll May ult before you can cast Fei Xiao's ult on Cocolia, and you don't want to hostage Fei Xiao's ult because you already have like close to 12 stacks. So now you will miss that 1 or 2% damage on the Cocolia, which will reduce the chance of you getting all the rewards. And another time is when you just can't crit consistently, so bad crits, if you're using a crit team. And another time to restart is when you just get bad aggro luck. So a squishy ally gets attacked the whole time instead of a tanky ally. So now you need to waste a skill point of your sustainer on this squishy ally, resulting in some skill point issues, resulting in your DPS not being able to cast their skill, but their basic attack, which results in DPS loss. But these are just rough guidelines on when you can restart your run if you really cannot manage to get all the rewards. Now let's understand the second note of this Apocalyptic Shadow. There are many things going on, but the most important thing is this. You want to weakness break everyone continuously. To do that, you need to do consistent AoE attacks. It's also possible with blast attacks, so characters hitting 3 enemies, but it's a little bit more difficult. AoE attacks are more recommended. That's basically all you need to know. If you cannot manage to get all the rewards because your team is not broken, which means you cannot ignore the mechanics of this Apocalyptic Shadow part, then I will try to make it as simple as possible for you to understand what's going on here. Well, this is the same boss as in the current Memory of Chaos, but he has a little bit of different mechanics going on compared to the MOC one. So like I said, you want to continuously weakness break these enemies. How do you weakness break them? There are two ways to weakness break them. One, you're just normally reducing their toughness and they get weakness broken. The other way to weakness break them is by attacking them a lot of times, and every time you attack them, this stack count, as you can see right here, gets +1. So if I attack this enemy once, he will have, instead of 0 out of 3, 1 out of 3 stacks. And if I have attacked him thrice, so 3 times, so then this guy will get weakness broken. That's it basically. And that's the same case for all of these enemies here. And when they get weakness broken, they become happy. Since these enemies have a angry and happy mode. Normally, when you attack them, they go from angry to happy or from happy to angry. But in this Apocalyptic Shadow, to make them happy, you need to weakness break them. So even if I attack this enemy a billion times, he will still stay angry. But if I weakness break him, he will be happy and immediately reward me. And what is this reward I will be getting immediately when I weakness break any of them? That depends on who you weakness break. If I weakness break this guy, he will give me, well, the whole team advance forward. So he will just advance forward my whole team by a little bit. If I weakness break the second guy, he will give energy to one ally. If I weakness break this big dinosaur, he will give the whole team attack percentage increase, which is pretty nice. This fourth guy right here will give your whole team 1 skill point. And with this last enemy, same case as the second enemy, he will give energy to one ally. So these are the rewards you will be getting when you weakness break any of them. But if they are angry because you couldn't manage to weakness break them and they get a turn, then they will punish you. And what is this punishment? For the first guy, that punishment will be, he will not advance forward your team, but the enemies. So all the enemies will get pushed up in the action bar by a little bit. The second guy will attack all your allies and will reduce your energy by a little bit. For the dinosaur, he will just attack your team, and sometimes he does an AoE attack. And with any attack he does, he has a chance to burn and slow the attacked characters. This guy will not give you a skill point anymore, but he will reduce 1 skill point when he's angry. And with the last one, same case as the second one, he will not give you energy, but he will attack your whole team and reduce your energy by a little bit. So we know, if we just attack them continuously, their stacks will go up and they will be weakness broken automatically. That means you don't have to have the same weakness type as the enemies, since you can just weakness break them if you just get the stacks up. Since by the time you actually weakness break their toughness bar, you would have already gotten 4 stacks. That's what happened to me in literally every case. I didn't even manage to weakness break them normally without getting their stacks up to the max first. That means you can run teams without matching weakness types. So people who do consistent AoE attacks are preferred in this case. So Jade, Blade, Fuswan with her ult with an energy rope. There's any character who can do these consistent AoE attacks. But like I said, consistent blast attacks are also usable here, but a little bit more difficult. Alright, so we know to weakness break these little ones, I can just reduce their toughness normally to 0 or with the stacks. But the stacks is the one that happens 99% of the time. But how do I weakness break this big toughness bar then? Whenever you weakness break any small enemy, then this collective toughness bar, since this toughness bar is basically shared, just like the HP you can say, will get reduced by a little bit. So if I weakness break this guy here, because I got his stacks up to 3, then this toughness bar will get reduced by a little bit. If I weakness break this guy right here, because I got 5 stacks, then this collective toughness bar will get reduced by a little bit too. But like I said, there are 2 ways to reduce this collective toughness bar. The second way is if every enemy on the field is weakness broken, so they all have max stacks, and you attack any enemy, then this collective toughness bar will get reduced by a little bit. So everyone is here weakness broken, let's assume that, and I attack with Jade with her basic attack. As you can see, her basic attack hits 3 targets. They're all weakness broken. Then this collective toughness bar will get reduced by a little bit. But if everyone was weakness broken here, but not this guy right here on the right side, then this collective toughness bar won't be affected because this guy right here still isn't weakness broken. And if everyone is weakness broken and you attack everyone, then this toughness bar will get reduced the wall time by a little bit. And if you manage to kill this guy in the first half, then we will go to the second phase and everything is basically the same apart from one thing, and that is that now we have this monkey in the action bar. And whenever this monkey gets a turn, what happens is that all these monsters will do like a big merged AoE attack with a chance to burn you, slow you, reduce a skill point of you, and to reduce your energy. And even get their attacks increased of all enemies. So basically when this monkey gets a turn, all the bad things that these robots do when they are angry will happen to you. So energy will get reduced, attack will be reduced, you will lose a skill point, they will get an attack percentage, but their action won't be forwarded. That's the only thing that won't happen. So if you really cannot manage to get all the rewards in this Apocalyptic Shadow and you struggle with this side, then here are some guidelines on when you should restart to get the maximum amount of points. So the first thing is you should restart when this dino attacks you and slows important ally. And with important ally I mean like your DPS. Since if your DPS is slowed, you will do a bit less actions, resulting in less damage done by your DPS. But if someone like Ronmei or Gallagher gets slowed, it's alright, we can afford that. But if your DPS gets slowed, it will cost you some points. The other time to restart is when bounces don't hit the important enemies. So if Asta or Imaginary MC uses their skill and the bounces go onto an enemy who is already weakness broken instead of someone who is not weakness broken and you want to get their stacks up, then that's just unlucky and it will cost you points for the Apocalyptic Shadow. You just got unlucky with the aggro, so enemy excellent attack ally Y, which resulted in you not getting enough energy for your ult. So you got a little bit of energy left for Ronmei's ult, but your Acheron gets attacked, and now you need to ult with Acheron without Ronmei's ult, resulting in less damage done. So just bad aggro RNG. Or you don't do any consistent crits. If you use a crit team, that's something that can happen. Or your squishy ally gets attacked the whole time instead of your tankier ally, resulting in your sustainer using a skill point which you didn't need to use in the first place, resulting in skill point issues. So now your DPS cannot use their skill, resulting in less damage done and all that stuff. But I want you to remember a couple of things. You can use the Herta for 4 days in this Apocalyptic Shadow. Since the last day of this Apocalyptic Shadow is on the 19th of January, and 4 days before that, 3.0 releases on the 15th of January 2025. If they keep up the same pattern that every 42 days a new version drops. But will Herta be good in this Apocalyptic Shadow? We cannot say, but since she is an Ice Erudition character, we can assume that she might be useful in the second half of this Apocalyptic Shadow, since we want to do their consistent AoE attacks. Will the Herta do that? We don't know, but she's Erudition, so probably she might. But luckily, Herta's kit will be officially revealed on the 3rd of January on the livestream, on the 3.0 livestream. So then we already will have an idea whether she will be good in this second half. Maybe even the first half she might be also good, but no one has ice weakness there, so I doubt that. But it's also maybe possible that we can use Remembrance MC for this Apocalyptic Shadow, since to unlock a path of the MC, you just need to beat a story or an event. And since 3.0 releases 4 days before Apocalyptic Shadow, so with the new main story, if you grind that story, then you might already unlock Remembrance MC and potentially use her in this Apocalyptic Shadow for free. But I'm not 100% sure, since she was drip marketed after Aclea, and if they keep up that pattern that a character get released with the order of the drip market, so the Herta got first released with the drip market, then Aclea, then Remembrance MC at last, then Remembrance MC is in the second half, but I doubt that. So Aclea got drip marketed after the Herta, so I don't think that we can use Aclea for this Apocalyptic Shadow if they decide to release Aclea in the second half of 3.0, which is after this Apocalyptic Shadow, which is quite a shame. But we will also have reruns too in 3.0. So when the Herta releases, then we might also get reruns with her, just like with the last couple of versions. With every limited character, a run character comes with that character. So if you're missing any characters, you will get the chance to fill up your collection to make this Apocalyptic Shadow a bit easier. But also, Fugia will come out on the 25th of December with Firefly as rerun. So you can also use them if you plan to summon for any of them, and you got enough time to use them for the Apocalyptic Shadow. But now going back to 3.0, to make your Apocalyptic Shadow easier, and if the characters are not the problem why you cannot beat this Apocalyptic Shadow, but your bad relic RNG is your problem? Well, with the release of 3.0, we will be getting ways to make your relics potentially a bit better, since we will get this variable dice, which means you can just reroll your substats, and we will get this wishful resin, with which you can choose your main stat and your substat too. So that means if you got bad relics, you can make your relics potentially a bit better. So my point is basically, you don't need to stress. You got 6 weeks the time for this Apocalyptic Shadow. The focus is to just get all your rewards before it refreshes. I don't care about getting more points than necessary. Just get your rewards and you're good to go. And of course, if you want to try out different teams, even though you got all the rewards, do what you want. Whatever brings you the most joy. That is what gaming is all about, right? So I thank you for your time and see you the next time. Bye.